and being ready to jump on those and not hesitate, not not feel like a chicken with its head cut off or scared. Be like, okay, I know what to do. We have a process. We can follow this.
Welcome back to Systems with Laura, the podcast where we explore how better systems create better businesses. This episode of Systems with Laura is brought to you by Proprium, business workflow and automation agency. If you're building a service-based business and you're overwhelmed by operations, automations, or choosing the right tools, this is exactly what Proprium helps with. Proprium builds systems that help you save time, reduce repetitive work, and scale without chaos. Learn more at proprium.agency. Today's guest is Tom, a cybersecurity advisor with more than a decade of experience helping organizations navigate technology, cloud computing, cybersecurity, and now also artificial intelligence. What I find particularly interesting about Tom's approach is that he doesn't believe security is about fear or buying more tools. He believes it's about clarity, understanding risks, making thoughtful decisions, and building systems that people can actually use. Starting his career on the help desk and working his way to principal level cybersecurity advisory roles, Tom has seen technology from every angle, the technical challenges, the business decisions behind them, and perhaps most importantly, the human behavior that ultimately determines whether security succeeds or fails. In this episode, we're talking about AI, cybersecurity, risk management, and why good security is really just another well-designed. If today's episode makes you realize your tools are not supporting your business, Proprium builds systems in tools like Airtable, SmartSuite. If today's episode makes you realize your tools are not supporting your business, Proprium builds systems in tools like Airtable, SmartSuite, ClickUp, HubSpot, Make, Zapier, and many more. Proprium's team maps your processes, builds your workflows, automates your tasks, and trains your team. If you want systems done properly, visit proprium.agency. ClickUp, HubSpot, Make, Zapier, and many more. Proprium's team maps your processes, builds your workflows, automates your tasks, and trains your team. If you want systems done properly, visit proprium.agency. Design business system. Tom, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being my guest today. Could you tell us a little bit about your career and your journey? How did you start with this topic and what makes it so interesting for you?
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah. As you mentioned, I started on the help desk, so I had a lot of exposure to all of the foundational technology that basically everything is built on now. And I had a lot of exposure to how people interact with technology and the entertaining pitfalls of that, and the wins we get with that too. So it's a practice of observing human behavior too. I worked my way up and ended up going in the cyber risk direction, and that's where I got introduced to more of the risk approach and the risk basis of thinking for evaluating everything, for figuring out what to do next, if this tool's right, if we're following these controls properly or implementing them properly, or if we're following the right or appropriate framework for security, for accreditation, for attestation, all that fun stuff. And it's also kind of inadvertently given me views into the business side of things too, unintentionally. But that's just part of risk. Risk is not just security. Risk is everything, or can be applied to everything, is a better way to put it. So yeah, and I've seen that include AI a lot more recently. That's definitely grown a lot. I mean, everybody's demand for it, whether justified or not, has grown for AI quite a bit, and it's grown quickly too. The speed at which it has grown is quite impressive. So So yeah, it all connects. There's definitely a lot of growth in there for me, a lot of growth in the industry, and just like growth of people in society, and just how things have changed so much in just a few short years. So it used to take a lot longer for things to grow, and now that time has been compressed quite a bit.
So, what are some misconceptions about cybersecurity? Small businesses, freelancers, solopreneurs, they don't kind of engage in cybersecurity until there is a level of restrictions that they need for a project, or they had something happen to their systems and all of that, or they start to grow as a company. So like, for people who are not familiar with the term, and they have misconceptions about it, what is cybersecurity, and what would you suggest for them to be the first step?
Yeah. The biggest thing I saw, previous job as an advisor, a security advisor for a lot of startups. So I saw it from the beginning. Is that a lot of people still see it as a cost center, as a nuisance, or oh, we have to do this, but I don't want to, or it's really expensive, or it's just a pain to do. But it actually does serve a purpose. It protect basically when you break it down, it protects your money and it protects your company. But the common thing I saw was that a lot of companies would wait to take it seriously. I mean, they would put a few things in place, a lot of defaults, which, I mean, that's like, they're okay. It's better than nothing. But they're not close to the baseline for just security compliance regulations, and they're definitely not anywhere close to best practices. But I saw a lot of companies take the approach of kind of setting it aside, saying, "Oh, we got the defaults, we're okay, we have something in place," until they're trying to sell, until they're trying to sell their product or their service or whatever they're selling to vendors and to clients. And those clients and vendors come back to them and say, "What's your security posture? Do you have your SOC 2 certification? Do you have ISO, HIPAA, high trust, depending on, if you're in the healthcare industry, all those others." And that's when it lights a fire under them. And not that it's too late, it's just bad timing. They could have timed it much better and taken it more seriously from the start and built it in from the start too, in more of a collaborative way between teams or people in the company already who know how to do it or have knowledge or the skill or just the passion for it, or just the curiosity for learning and implementing security, controls or practices and so on and so forth. That serves you better. And it's hard to drive this point home because it's a longer term effect. It's not a short term effect that you see on those quarterly reports, but it does save you money in the long term. Implementing security from the beginning, taking it seriously from the beginning. But when you have, and more so in the publicly traded companies, when you have the CEOs more concerned with, what's my quarterly outlook next quarter or the next 3 quarters, they don't care about the long term because that's not what their money's tied to. It's tied to their performance in the near term, even though it serves the company and the people, both at the company and who are benefiting from the company, whether it's the services or the products. In the long term, it serves them better, but nobody takes it seriously because they want the dollar signs now. And if that means cutting corners with security, they'll do it. So, and that kind of that thought process, I see it trickle down more out of urgency with the smaller businesses because they feel more urgency, or they see or sense more urgency with keeping the business afloat for longer, or just keeping the lights on for longer. And so they prioritize, oh, we'll just push this product out. We'll push this code out. We're not going to review it. We'll just push it out. We'll fix it later. Unfortunately, fixing it later, whether it's just a code fix, hot swap, hot fix, an update, or a breach happens because of that, because you didn't go through the right practices, it still costs more. Breaches obviously cost more money comparatively, but still it costs more money to go back and redo the work a second time because you didn't do it right the first time. Because one, you're redoing the work, and two, it's extra labor. So it costs more money in the long term. So there's a whole lot tied to it, and there's a whole lot of different routes you can go through, or strings you can pull on to help explain why it is important to take security seriously from the start, as opposed to trying to bolt it on later, because it's so much more expensive trying to bolt it on later, especially once you start getting tools into it, especially when you have the urgency of, oh, we're trying to close this deal, but they won't sign with us until we have a certification, and then you're rushing. That causes problems too, because that can lead to not having a good job done on an audit, on evidence gathering, on implementation of those controls. But you're trying to rush through it because you have that deadline with that vendor, and it's a big vendor. It's going to be, game changer type money that gets infused into the business. But you end up kind of losing the value, because all that money you're going to gain, you're spending ahead of time just to rush through it, instead of, kind of trickling it out over time, where it's easier it's a much lighter impact overall on the bottom line.
So you have a huge experience with enterprises. You understand those advanced things, but our audience is usually not an enterprise user, and they are at the same time trying to build a plane while flying the plane when it comes to business, right? So you're trying to keep the lights on, just like you said, of the business, and you're building other stuff, operational stuff. You don't know what you don't know. Where do you start? If two-person business hired you tomorrow, what would be the 3 things that you immediately do for them so they don't get into the problems later on when it's more expensive?
What you just said, you don't know what you don't know, is a good starting spot. Because perfect example is, you don't know what you don't know, so you don't know, what are the assets that I have? What are the assets that this business owns? Who has access to what? Those are 2 big questions, and 2 very important questions, and should be solved early on too anyways. So simplifying that all the way down, get an inventory of the assets you own. Get an inventory of everything you're using, whether it is physical assets, physical workstations, physical servers, and you have your own data center that you own and operate, or it is cloud resources that you're using in, pick any one of the cloud providers, both popular and not popular. You need to know all your resources in there that you're using, because 1, you may need to make sure you're using it properly and it's actually serving you how you want it to serve you. And 2, it's not racking up massive bills that are unnecessary, because you have the service turned on in, this cloud provider, but you're not actually using it, but it's still costing you money. Because I've seen that happen. There are those horror stories on the internet all over the place, and those oopsie mistakes that you hear about all the time, where people left something turned on over the weekend, and next thing you know, they're $100,000 in debt to their cloud service provider because they forgot it was on, or didn't realize that they had a webhook in there that was continuously calling something, or a service, or a Lambda function or something, and it ended up costing you a lot of money. So knowing your assets and then auditing them, just double checking, is this right? Is this list correct? Do we need all this stuff? And if you can validate and justify why you need it, great. You're a step ahead. And then the other part you want to do is, who has access to it, and what kind of access do they have? In a 2-person company, probably means both people have access to everything and have admin access to everything, which that small of a company, that makes sense. But at the same time, it makes it real easy to divvy up the access. So one simple thing is to split it. You have your standard everyday user, make sure their permissions are not privileged permissions. Make sure their permissions are standard. They have access to do all of the daily tasks they need to do. If they need to go in and change something from an admin level or a privileged level, have a separate account that is separately labeled. I don't suggest putting admin in the name, because that's like a big spotlight on it saying attacker, look here, malicious actor, look here.
So wait, you're saying don't put your password to be passwords?
No, don't do that.
No. Okay. Noted.
But yeah, but that's a simple step. And if you do that early, you got 5 people in your company, and each one of them should have admin access rights to different parts of the company. You got your salespeople having admin access to Salesforce or whatever CRM tool you're using. You got your tech guy. He's got access to all the infrastructure, and he's got admin access there. Making sure that that sales guy doesn't have admin access to the infrastructure, and making sure that unless it's absolutely necessary, say for a vendor relationship, the IT guy doesn't have admin access to Salesforce. That's an easy thing to do, easy thing to accomplish and implement, and it makes a big difference too. And also separating those two, making sure that all their daily operations, they both have standard accounts that they're working in. You got your sales guy has his standard account in Salesforce, doing his job, doing the contracts, putting together everything, PowerPoint, Excel, in and out of Salesforce, et cetera, whatnot, and PDFs. And then you got your tech guy, doing the same thing, using his standard account for all his daily stuff. And then the admin stuff should be, separate, but also just time to time when you need to actually do something. So, and then that allows you for in the future, to build upon that and create a useful, scalable, and resilient change management process. Especially once you start getting devs in there and you start developing stuff, if you need to, if that's part of your business and how it works, it makes that part a lot easier too, because you have a little bit of foundation from there that you can build on.
What about if you work with clients, so you provide digital services, not a product, not software? How do you kind of like make it safer? So for example, in my company, which you are familiar with, Proprium Agency, we basically had to figure out when we started, how will we get access to our clients' software, because we do automations, we do operational mappings, we do business consulting and all of those things, and we needed access to their software. We found a way, so that which way we are using it, so I'm not gonna answer immediately, but if it's a similar company that has to have access to other people's software, how do you make it safe?
Yeah, that's where, that's still building on those concepts too of proper access and going a step further with the change management. And it also takes into consideration the contract, the MSA you have, the agreements, et cetera, all of that
That's
stuff.
too advanced.
That also,
That's too advanced. We need to take it a step down to our potential listener, because that's so good what you're saying, but what if you don't have those? My clients usually encounter other collaborators that just send them a password and username in an email. So how do you tackle those? Those are the challenges of like freelancers and small businesses. How do you solve that?
yeah, I would still recommend, even on some basic level, because I have seen it at a basic level, having some sort of agreement where it defines roles and responsibilities, and it defines, if it can, to some degree, privacy and access. But as for that specific scenario where you got someone sending emails with passwords, first I would recommend not doing that, because it's not exactly.
So no on the email, no on the sticky notes, with nothing like that. Got
No,
it. Okay.
no,
Okay.
bad
So no
idea.
password, no sticky notes, no emails. We just keep
Yeah,
getting restrictions today here,
yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. But in the email situation, if you can, I would recommend encryption on the email first. The other thing too is make it a temporary password.
So what does encryption mean for people who don't understand it? So is that a special software? How do I encrypt something?
Usually it comes with the business suite you have, whether it's Google or Microsoft or, pick any other out of a hat. They have, it should be, I believe it's included in the, business side of things, in the workspace area, not so much on the general consumer area.
Yeah. So no free accounts. We don't recommend Gmail or Outlook.com or stuff like that for business purposes. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. Because those, I could go down a rabbit hole with those. Those offer a lot more too, defense-wise, for like phishing, for data loss prevention, et cetera, all that stuff, including encryption. Excuse me. But encryption, basically, it puts armor around the email. It puts it in a secure envelope. that, where if someone saw it, all they would see would be just a bunch of gobbledygook.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be just letters and numbers. They wouldn't be able to discern what is actually in there. So I'd recommend that. It does usually involves a password or pass key, public key, private key, that infrastructure. But again, that can be fairly easily set up in Google, in Microsoft, in those workspaces for businesses. It is actually a little bit more of a challenge on the consumer side of things. I've tried it on the consumer side. It's kind of a pain. It's not as easy. Also, there's like paywalls and stuff, like usual. So, but I would recommend. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, my internet is getting a little bad, but I didn't mean to interrupt. But I just wanted to say, and then the next layer would be at least a password management tool. They are like $2, $3 per month, $4 per month per user. So like that would be the next layer of basics, I would say. And what I love also about like Google Workspace, I use both business standard and the lower package. You can easily remove devices where you have logged in, which is really good advanced feature that you can't do with the basic one with just Gmail. And then basically you can also, just like you said, set roles. So you can be super admin, but then somebody else in the team can have different levels of permissions. So I think that's pretty straightforward to kind of even the basics set up yourself. What would be the layer after that? So, you're doing that's working. It's been like 6 months, year. What would you do next? The company is growing now. It has 4 or 5 people, not 2. What do they do next?
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying, company's growing. You've gotten past the point where you've got some admin standard user separation, and you're starting to add more applications too to the enterprise.
And you're probably buying some computers for employees also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that adds a whole nother layer of fun to it, is getting those workstations. And that just starts with the ownership too. Because if they are company owned, which I recommend that, because that makes separation and just life easier for everybody. Because bring your own device can offer a lot of complications. Doesn't matter if it's an enterprise or if it's a 10-person small business or smaller. It does bring a lot of headaches with the bring your own device, because in that situation, bring your own device, that's a personal device. That's someone's personal device. So the biggest example is, they're using that to surf the web, check their social media, check their bank accounts, email, etc. They also store pictures and videos on there, etc. So it's all personal stuff, but it's on a work computer. And then they're doing the same thing with work computer. They're checking their work emails, using the work computer to work on actual work applications or log into work networks, and it's intermingled, and that offers a lot of different issues, one of which being you could get malicious or malware on your computer from your personal email. And if you have your work email on there, that is an easy pivot point. And then next thing you know, your work network is compromised because you opened a personal email on your personal computer, but you use it for work too. So that's a big thing right there. The other is from the opposite angle, and that is during the process of someone leaving, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. The BYOD offers a lot of headache around keeping data secure, because normally on a company-owned workstation, it's simple. Company can just wipe it. They don't have to worry about any data loss, any data security issues. They just wipe the computer, and the employee mails it back. It's pretty simple, and then you can reuse it or recycle it from there. But with BYOD, if you do that means you're wiping the whole device, and those people lose their stuff. So they have to know ahead of time when they sign that contract to work. It's like, company X, we can wipe your computer for data security purposes, for intellectual property purposes, etc. And you need to be okay with that. So that means it's on you to back up all your important personal stuff somewhere else, or don't use your own computer. get a computer from the company. That's the best recommendation. And taking that a step further is for the workstations provided by work, owned by the company. Baseline / best practices, just depends on how you use it, is getting an EDR system, endpoint detection, or endpoint security, because that allows you to do a lot more. It allows you to company-wide or workstation-wide on all the workstations you have, actually all the assets you have too, is manage updates, which are important for combating both malicious people intent on getting in, but also bugs and patches and everything. Patch Tuesday is very popular, has been for more than 30 years with Microsoft. Keeps you up to date with those. And you don't have to have an IT guy go around to every workstation and do it manually. It's automatic. You don't have to have the end users do it either, because sometimes people aren't tech savvy or tech savvy in the way of maintaining a computer, and it takes that burden off of them. You also have antivirus, anti-malware. That is always a part of that, so it's protecting your computer that way. It also allows you to enforce lock screens, screensavers, re-authentication after a certain amount of time, so session timeouts, which are important, especially with remote workers, especially if they're working somewhere public. You don't want them to walk to the bathroom and have their computer still be on with that really important, really private contract or proposal on their screen, for anybody to come see. And there's more. I can't think of the other stuff, but there's a bunch of other small, just important but smaller details.
But Tom, doesn't that make us paranoid? Like, why would somebody look at your contract when you go to the bathroom? Why would somebody get into your computer? Like, why that paranoia? You know what I mean? That could be a counter argument from somebody who's not ready for cybersecurity, and I hear it a lot from people who don't understand the risks. Like, they don't understand why that would be a problem, right? Like, why would it be such a huge issue, under quotes, basically to leave your password on a sticky note? So, like, why is
Yeah,
that all an issue? Is it paranoia, or is it really, really an
that
issue? And why?
explained, I guess, through just the basic risk assessment exercise. That contract to you, that intellectual property to you, to the business, that's important to you, right? The business has value. They see value on it, monetary value out of it, right? So the answer is yeah.
Yep.
You're not gonna, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah, the business sees value. Well, someone on the outside sees that the business values it, and they're like, how can I exploit that? Ransomware basically is that. They see value in your data, so they try to get in and encrypt it and say, you want it unencrypted, you have to pay us. And that's how ransomware works, because they see that data is valuable to you. And if it got leaked, it got out, it would cost you money. So they're like, if you pay us less money, but still a lot of money, we'll give it back to you, unencrypted.
Got it.
That's how so that's the whole thing. It's that it's valuable to you, and other people they're like, I can exploit that. That's what it is.
Got it. So if somebody thinks of this as paranoia, basically that's the best argument there. And then, what about the fact that you want your workers to have session timeouts and close those things? My team is remote fully, right? So, and we all travel a lot. So we have rules in place, but even if they didn't understand, which they do, how would I explain to them why I want their computer to be locked when they, leave to the bathroom, for example? Like, why is that a thing?
Yeah. And I do have an example too to help hopefully explain this, but the value part. And that is, everybody was a kid. Everybody remembers seeing that other kid playing with that toy they wanted to play with, or having a cookie or a donut that they wanted too. They saw the value in that and they want it for themselves. So it's just another hopeful example to explain why it's important, why the security is important, why you're not being paranoid. As for session lockouts and the importance there usually comes into play once you hit that requirement for certification, like a SOC 2 certification or an ISO 27001 certification, because those are requirements. But the actual purpose behind those is very connected to getting up and walking away from your workstation. The other part of it too is, um, if you leave something unlocked and just, open, visible to the world, basically, and you walk away, whether it's for 30 seconds, 2 minutes, 20 minutes, or an hour. If it's just sitting there and they can just wiggle the mouse or press a key and it goes back to where it was, that means they have access. That means they have unauthorized access. So they're not authorized. That person, they don't work for the company. They're not authorized to see what's on that computer, but they're able to access it. And you don't want that, because it's a big security risk. That is an easy way. It used to be much more popular when things were much more primitive, 20 years ago, where, someone could just see a computer, get on it, and they have access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little less of an issue now, but it's still a risk. But yeah, having that unauthorized access is a big one.
What's the liability of the employee and what's the liability of the business owner? We're not talking about big structures. Like something happens, a breach happens in the business. Like, how do what do you do depending on the breach, I would assume? And I can give you an example. For example, one of the biggest frauds that I know about in Europe currently is people sending invoices to companies and people not looking at the data. It looks like a legitimate invoice from somebody that you would usually purchase from, and then an accountant or somebody in the team doesn't even check twice. Everything looks very similar. The address looks very similar. Maybe they just switched an O with a zero and stuff like that, right? That's not very visible with the naked eye. And then basically they just pay the invoice and it goes to the wrong account. So that's one of the big ones that I'm heard a lot about. What is the liability in that situation? Who's liable? The business owner, the person who did that? What's the security that could have changed that? Because this is not something you clicked on and it stole your data. This is a different type of fraud. Yeah.
Infiltration. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting, not clear answer for that one.
Mm-hmm.
In those cases, in the case specifically looking at liability where it can be traced back to someone and they actively did something that you probably knew they shouldn't have done, like clicked on an email or clicked on an attachment or whatever, or downloaded something they shouldn't have, and they kind of knew it. That usually the business can lean on the employer contract, and a lot of times the discipline there can be termination. In the scenario you're bringing up, where it is a good way of putting it, I guess, is obfuscation. I don't know if that's quite the right descriptor, but it's close enough for what I can think of at the moment. But you have that document. It looks like an invoice, a couple of letters, maybe actual numbers, or they may be using Cyrillic language. Because it looks close enough to English language. Just for this example, we're saying it's in English. And I see that a lot where Cyrillic A is used for a lowercase a as opposed to a regular A. And nobody really notices it, or it doesn't click. It kind of looks off, but they just kind of brush it off. Liability, unfortunately, in that situation where someone just pushes it through, falls to the company. Not much really you can do for the employee. I mean, you can do extra training for that. But again, it's one of those things where if it's part of a routine, it's harder to catch unless you're really pounding it into people to be vigilant. So the responsibility for catching that before it even gets to the employee falls to the business. And they can do that with those spam filters, with those phishing filters, with the antivirus, anti-malware detection and protection tools tools that they have in place, where before when it gets to that border of the network, before it even gets to that end user, before it even gets to the workstation or even the network, the internal company network, it is scanned and it is compared to current signatures that are out there, virus signatures. behavioral heuristics that are used with IDS and IPS. It's detection and protection, basically. That's what the D and the P stand for, is protection
So
and
how does
detection.
a small business get to that?
Say they're using cloud and they're using one of the normal, identity providers like Google or Microsoft. They have those tools built in. Cloud has those tools. We're going to use AWS as an example. They have those built in. They have guard duty. They have, oh gosh, I can't remember all of them. There's so many of them, but I think it's, Security Watchtower. That's another one. But there are so many tools that do all of that for you and that can be deployed for you to all of your assets in the cloud. And you can also set it up. It's not usually ideal unless you are in that beginning stages and you don't have another solution for your actual workstations. For example, like a CrowdStrike, that's an expensive enterprise solution, but it serves the example. You'd want to use CrowdStrike versus trying to push guard duty out to your workstations. Trust me, it makes better sense once you understand it more. But the point is that you can use those through the current tools. There are also, especially for smaller companies who may not have the vast budget that medium or large companies have, there are open source tools that are reputable, that do serve the proper purpose. They just involve a little bit more elbow grease and a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more time to implement properly. But if you got a guy or person who is either passionate, curious, or already knows and has the skills to do this, then you just gotta, say, hey, take this, run with it, do your best, and we trust you. Get this working because we need to, protect our network, protect our data, and our workstations. And then usually, the open source will work just fine in that area. It'll serve you long enough where you can continue growing. You can continue growing your business and your services and your products, but you can also continue growing your security with it. Where once you get to that point where you do have that extra income or you do have that next round of funding, you can invest in that next level of security tool and implement that tool.
So what are the types of threats and frauds that are something that we need to be aware of? Are we talking about like phishing emails? Are we talking about frauds like I mentioned? Like what are the risks around us that we are not even aware of? And don't make us all scared, but make us informed, educate us, but also I want to sleep tonight, just please don't go overboard.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, and the fun part is a lot of people forget about one of these, and there's two: internal threats and external threats.
Okay.
A lot of people in businesses forget about the internal threats
Interesting.
because it's an employee. And a lot of times that disgruntled employee sometimes either has too much access or their access remains after they're terminated for too long, where they can get in over that weekend.
There can
and
also
start
be a clumsy employee. It doesn't necessarily have to be disgruntled.
that too. Yeah, that's the other part of it too, because it's all the internal risk. It's there. It needs to be identified. It needs to be identified and not pushed aside, thinking, oh, we trust these people. They know what they're doing. We hired the right people. It's like people make mistakes. That's why security exists. That's why I have job security, is because people exist and make mistakes. I make mistakes.
So would you say that cybersecurity is recession proof?
Yeah, it's it's stupid proof.
Yeah. So
It's always gonna be people.
I mean, I said clumsy employee because I've deleted my fair share of stuff in my own company, but I have backups. So, you know what I mean? I know what I'm doing, but I've had situations where I've encountered people who didn't do it maliciously, who didn't, they just didn't understand something. So this ties into software and backups and all of that. That all aside, like if we look at those internal threats, doesn't matter of the intention, like what kind of damage can a person do internally, and what kind of damage can happen from external threats?
Yeah. So internally, the damage can be data destruction. The damage can be data loss. It can be bringing the network down or bringing assets down intentionally or unintentionally, losing a database, dropping a database, deleting a database, types of things like that. An easy one is losing power or losing network connectivity. It's like, why'd you unplug that? We lost our internet. and now it takes 5 minutes for it to get back online.
But it was thunder outside. I was trying to protect the computer. No?
Yeah, or I needed to plug in the coffee maker, and that was the only
I
plug I
mean, the
could find.
coffee maker is the if I can't plug in the coffee maker, come on, that's valid. I would not fire anybody. We unplugged the server, but we had coffee. That's a promotion in my book.
I'm not a coffee guy, so I have no sympathy for that.
Ah, got it. Okay, so if you ever work with Tom, do not unplug the server because of the coffee machine. That's the message of today. Got it.
No.
Okay, I didn't even think about that, honestly. What else? What else is on the list that we didn't think about?
So damage externally,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, is pretty similar. Someone gets in, or it's basically the same thing. Data loss, data destruction, reputational impact, usually in the negative fashion, because of the data loss or destruction, or availability. If your company website is down, or your service, or not a product, but a service, your service is down for extended periods of time, especially if you have an SLA in place that says you meet a certain threshold of availability, and then all of a sudden you have an outage that lasts too long and you can't meet that SLA, that opens you up to a lot of legal liability, in addition to all of just trying to fix that issue. So that's compounded there. And then you get the reputational impact that comes from both trying to fix the problem and get back online, but also all of the legal liability that comes with it. Because especially in America, companies and people are pretty litigious, and they want to get every dollar they can out of every opportunity they can.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are the big damage areas there.
What about those emails that we all received? And it's been in the last like 2 or 3 years, a lot of them, where I receive an email from a company whose service I am either purchasing or I have their software. And the email is, we apologize. We've had a data breach. This happened. You need to be aware of blah, blah, blah. We did these steps and we hope to remedy that. I remember like a few years ago, LastPass had this situation, and that was very scandalous at that time because it was rare and they're a password management platform.
Yeah.
And now it's not rare that I see this, and I see this like at least once a quarter from a company, emailing about some sort of data breach. So like if I see that as a user, what do I do? Like, what are my options? How bad is it? Like, what don't I know about those emails?
Yeah, the first thing is always verify. Check both news sources, and then alternately through a different communication source, check with that company and say, hey, is this legitimate? I didn't see anything in the news. I want to see if this is legitimate or if this is just someone trying to fish me. And if they say it is legitimate, great. Then that's when you start your investigation. That's when also you take the email seriously, because usually in those emails, that company will give you recommendations on what to do next and next steps, along with what their communication will be through the rest of their incident response process, what kind of notifications you'll be getting from them and information you'll be getting from them. So, and basically what that means is taking it a step beyond the basic security I was talking about earlier with the assets and the access, is having an incident response plan in place, not only for when incidents happen directly to your company, but also for incidents that happen to your supply chain, and being ready to jump on those and not hesitate, not feel like a chicken with its head cut off or scared. Be like, okay, I know what to do. We have a process. We can follow this. And thankfully it's on the supply chain. So that means our responsibility, but also the actions we can take are much clearer and also limited, not in a bad way, but limited because there's only so much you can do and only so much impact it may have. Because a lot of times what I've seen is, especially lately, is with those attacks where a company is attacked, but it's in your supply chain somewhere, where they will come and they will tell you outright, your data was not impacted or your data was impacted. And that will give you great direction right there from what you do next. If your data is not impacted, it's very simple. Usually it's a lot of resetting passwords to that account or double checking access rights, maybe turning off access for a little while, depending on the recommendations from the company contacting you. Um, but it's usually pretty simple, directed towards that. Whereas if it's data breach, then it's definitely okay. We need to sever this connection. We need to decommission certain APIs if they were using APIs for the connection. However it was done. We need to first disconnect that. Second, we need to double check all the access rights to it, all the privileges, and everything from our side, because they'll probably be double checking everything on their side. So you need to work together on that. But it becomes a much longer process, but a necessary process. And if you have that at least somewhat documented, or have an idea and a plan documented that's easily accessible to everybody who needs it, you will be in a much better spot than if you had nothing and you're trying to throw it into Google or ChatGPT. What do I do next? I'm freaking out. I have 10 minutes to do this, and I don't even know what step one is. So
Why are you reading my ChatGPT communication?
because I know you use it. I've known you.
I would never do. Joke aside, it seems that you're saying, and tell me if I'm not getting this correctly. It seems that you're saying that even though they told you about the threat, that doesn't mean the threat is no longer active. So what you're saying is you got that email doesn't mean that it's under control. It's basically, if it says your data was under that breach, remove the API connections, like log out, so because that means that actively somebody can enter your data and do more damage, right? Am I getting this correctly?
Yeah, yeah. It comes down to being better safe than sorry, but also verifying. Because like I mentioned earlier, you get that email, verify first that it's actually real. Then you'll know, okay, now I need to take action. Or, oh, it's just spam, I can delete it.
Deleted.
But
What
yeah.
about the situations where you are a self-employed person, you're a business of
Mhm.
one, and you're just trying to survive, like you're just trying to get traction, you're selling your service, even if you're a small team and all of that. And the clients that I work with through Proprium Agency, basically when they choose software, they're testing out stuff. Like they come to us and they're like, we have a tech stack of like 20 tools. We do this, we do that. We try this, we try that. But I don't see any one of them like keep track where they logged in, what they tested, what they connected. And like, when you're testing CRMs, you are logging in with your email. You're providing access to that CRM to your email. They can send stuff as you. Like, you're clicking on so many permission boxes, and you're not aware of what you're giving permission to because you're just testing out software, right? And then you abandon that account in a way. Maybe it's on a free plan. You just go somewhere else, and you now have 20 active softwares that you use, but you have like hundreds or 100 accounts behind you that are active. Somebody could hack into, right? And they could get access to your other stuff. Like, how do you manage from that endpoint? One is to keep the passwords in the password manager. That's all clear. But what about when you're doing stuff like this?
Yeah, that's where keeping track and knowing your assets, knowing what you have and what you don't have comes into play, because I see a lot of those orphaned accounts all the time. And there have definitely been both recent and old instances where an orphan account has been exploited
Mm-hmm.
because someone completely forgot about it, or it was left open when someone left the company. I've seen that happen quite often. So that's where knowing what services you have, what assets you have, and periodically going through that, whether it's monthly, which is quite a lot in the grand scheme of things, or quarterly or annually, and then checking. Okay, I've signed into 3 CRM accounts. We're only using one. Do I really need these other 2? And then if you don't, and you're done testing, you can decommission those other 2. There's nothing wrong with that. It helps you actually in the long run, because it reduces your attack surface. Because as you pointed out, it may not necessarily get them direct access to your network, but it can get them access to your email. And if they know your email, that's one piece of information they didn't have before that they have now. And that can be a vector for them to use to get into your network, to send you spam or phishing emails that force you to click on something that will let them into the network, or that will allow them to, that will install something on your network that will get them access to it. There's a bunch of different ways to do it, and that one piece of information can be pretty valuable. Gives them a lot of options, basically, to infiltrate, to exploit.
What about cold emails? So a lot of business owners send
Mhm.
cold emails, receive cold emails. Like, how do you distinguish what's a real business behind an email versus somebody who's trying to fish you, or it's spam, or they want you to click something, So like, how do you even compete when you have to send out cold outreach, when you have to reach out to people, when you're trying to do sales? And how do you filter your own inbox from what's real and what's not?
Keyword there is filter. And luckily, this is usually included in those workspace packages for your email provider, Google, Microsoft, et cetera, all those. They have, once you hit that enterprise level or that business level,
Business, not
they have
enterprise. Yeah. I think that's really important to emphasize, because people can be afraid of the word enterprise. They think it's expensive, but sometimes even enterprise licenses are not that expensive. They're just called enterprise because they have all the features. Yeah.
the vernacular.
Yeah.
Nobody's consistent, which is annoying. Um, but yeah, all those business level services, they have spam filtering, and that's what you want. You want that filtering because that is your first defense. Your second defense is security awareness training and just being vigilant. And I know it's cold calls or cold emails, and sometimes they look advertising, sometimes they look legit, sometimes they look like trash, and you just delete them anyways,
Hmm.
and that's fine. Um, but it's just being aware and not just turning on the autonomous zombie brain for the day. It's actually reading it. And another thing too with those code calls, if it seems too good to be true, it
Hmm.
likely is. Like the situation where, oh, I just got an email. What's this attachment? It says
I saw that.
payroll.pdf.exe. Mm-hmm.
It was payroll increase, and even the cybersecurity officer clicked on it. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
And it's right there too. It says .exe at the end of it. It's like that should be your red light
Yeah.
because that means executable. That
But
means something's gonna
a
run,
lot of
and it's
people
not.
don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. That's a problem also. And like you said, the zombie brain, like you're overwhelmed. Like you have calls, you have different things you're doing, especially if you're a small business, and it can happen very easily. It can happen very easily. One of the frauds that I encountered was one of those sites where you can resell stuff. In Europe it's different than in America, but like you have a used, I don't know, speakers, and you want to sell them, right? There was this popular fraud where somebody would ask you for to go on the link. So you're interested in buying something from them, go on the link and enter your card. And I almost entered my card because it seemed so legit. But then when I saw it's CCV number, right? The three,
Yep.
the three numbers on your card. I was like, but that's for buying. Like, why would you need my, like, for you to send it to me? Why would you? So I was very tired that day. Thankfully, the flag, came up in my brain, but like I can see why people would do that. And it looks so easy. The logo is there. The website looks very similar because they're using those symbols, like you said. So it looks slightly. It's not odd when you look at it, and you're in a rush, you want to do something, you want to click, and it happens. So it can happen. It's not just the jokes with like boomers clicking and stuff like that. That's not a stereotype. That's always true. And giving their data. The Nigerian prince fraud from the 90s, my favorite one, and stuff like that. It can really happen. And I think it's a huge risk now also with our next topic, which is AI. Like I've seen they can clone your voice, call you, ask for stuff. And like I keep receiving like text messages saying like, Mom, I'm stranded. Please call me on this number. So, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't have kids. I'm not a mom. But like if I was, I would click on that message because I would think my teenager might be messaging me, or call that number or click on it. So it's not just the computers, it's not just the emails, it's also, it can happen via other devices. So like, how do you stay vigilant? How do you kind of like scan the threats? How do you know?
Yeah.
I said a lot, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the AI part about the cloning of your voice, your image, and whatnot, I've done actual incident response exercises where that has been the incident
Mm-hmm.
where, finance team was duped by um, a call with the CEO, and it looked legit, sounded legit, it looked like them, and it was all of a sudden, and they're like, "We need to wire $2 million to this account
Mm.
because we're making the sale, blah blah blah." And I'm the CEO. They're using the fear because it's the
Mm-hmm.
CEO, and the and it can happen too with smaller companies where they don't have the checks and balances in place, the
Mm-hmm.
separation, where someone may be like, "Oh my God, I got to listen. We got to do this. We're under time crunch," and they use that fear against you, and
Mm-hmm.
you do make that. And then half hour later, your CEO comes up to you or calls you or something. It's like, "Where'd all this money go? What are you doing?" And then it's like you realize what happened. So I've seen that. That's a scenario to practice once you get large enough, and once you have an incident response plan in place. Practice that scenario. Well, how would you address that?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely practice that. Um, but yeah, and then I'm sorry. What was the rest of your question?
So the text
Question.
messages and all that related to AI, let's go back to that. But I want to give one solution also here for smaller companies that don't have that cybersecurity infrastructure. There's a tool called, there are multiple tools like Missive, Intercom, etc., etc. Like those tools are usually for your communication with your customers, but you can also track email and have like team inboxes with different levels of access, just like you said, for example. So
Mhm.
we've received multiple emails like that, like where people would be like to my employee, like, "Hi, I'm the CEO. Hi, I'm Laura. Please do that." And I'm like, "I've seen that email. I didn't email you that. That's not my address. That's so weird, right?" And we can flag it because we all have access to certain shared email inboxes that are meant for the company, and then we can comment below it. So my team just like tags me and they're like, "Look at this, this is weird," etc., etc. And we have communication below that. So I would definitely recommend Missive for that. Not a sponsor yet, but it's pretty cool to have. There's also Front, there are others. I'm not just saying this about one, but this way you can share responsibility. And you can
Mhm.
also see like WhatsApp messages. You can see if somebody messages your company on Facebook, Instagram. All of that stuff comes to one source, and then you can have conversations below it. So, what do you think about tools like that? Of course, with levels of admin, moderator, all of those, you don't have access to everything, but shared team inboxes are such a good solution. Yeah. What's
Yeah.
good or bad with that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's kind of borderline with the shared stuff.
Okay.
But the main point that you made though is verification,
Yes.
is verifying. That's how you can combat those text messages, those emails, those phone calls, everything is verification, whether it's on the personal end or on the business end. Verification. You get that call from your kid, from your friend, family member, whatever, saying, "I'm stranded on the road, help, I need you to call AAA and give them $100 or something like that." Verify. You can hang up with them. You can hang up and then call that person directly and be like,
Hmm.
"Hey, are you stranded on the road?" And they'll say, "No, I'm sitting on my couch watching Price is Right. What are you doing?"
So
And then
hang
you're
up,
fine.
verify, call them back. Or if
Yep.
you receive a text like, "Hey, mom, blah, blah, blah," text your kid to your normal number, right? And call them, basically.
Yep.
Okay,
Or
cool.
call them. Yeah. Yeah. If you get a text from someone, just be like, "All right, I see that text. I'm just gonna call them directly." And be like, "Hey, what's going on?" And that's when you verify. And if they say, "Hey, I'm stuck on the side of the road. I need help." Say, "All right, fine. I'll be there. I'll change your tire." No,
It's
no
really
problem.
hard because you also you get legitimate text messages from bank. I got one from my bank that was legitimate, and I wasn't
Ah,
sure. Okay, tell us
this is
more
a good
about
one.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like that's the thing too with your bank. That's a great example. Banks, they allow you to set up alerts, text alerts usually, or phone call alerts, where they'll text you with, "Hey, something's going on. We see some anomalous behavior or
Yes.
activity." That's the thing too. The banks will never text or call you and ask you for information.
Mm-hmm.
They will only tell you something funky's going on. You need to check it. That's the big indicator right there. If you get a text or a phone call from your bank saying something's going on, you need to pay this, that, or the other thing, we need you to call us right now, or we need this information, send this information, go to this link, and you'll get all squared away. You won't have to worry about legal issues or the
Mm-hmm.
police. And that's usually what they do is they prey on that fear.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll try to weave it into the message where you go to a link or you text back or you call back and give that information, which that right there tells you it's not legitimate because a bank will never ask you for that information. U.S. governments will never ask you for that information. Example would be the IRS. They will never ask you for information via text or phone call. They will only tell you that something is going on or you're being audited, which would suck. But which isn't an emergency though. So usually it's for emergencies. If they email you, call them up. If they call you, hang up, call again, or send an email
Mm-hmm.
and go directly to them from a known good source, from their website or from a phone number you have that you know is legit. That's the best way to verify.
So what you're saying is if there is some sort of verbiage of fear, like there is threats, let's say, but they're not direct. They're like, this will happen if you don't do that. So if there is any type of language like that, if there is any send me your data type of thing, or click here or pay this or blah, 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 that's definitely a fraud. Don't do that.
Yeah, it's a red flag.
Even if it says Brad Pitt emailed you and he's stranded and he needs your help. That's also false.
That's also false. Yeah.
Well, we have to have a conversation afterwards. Okay. Back to serious topics. As I think it's very visible from our conversation that we've known each other for a long time and that I have asked you plenty of stupid questions and I'm trying to ask you
I've given you plenty of stupid answers.
Sorry?
I've given you plenty of stupid answers.
I just want for our audience to learn the most today. And I do think that even with the jokes, I think we are all learning a lot. And I like the patterns between everything you're saying because you can easily train people on this. I really don't think it's that hard. I really think once you start like seeing the signs, you can easily pinpoint to it, etc. And I would even add like don't do the payment days in your company when you're tired. Like put a day just for that. That's way too serious for you to just be like, everything's overflowing. I have to do this. I have to do that. I'm not feeling well. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep well, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter if it's going to be, before the deadline, few days, just so you have that window basically where you can literally decide that you are available to not have a zombie brain at that moment, I would say. Okay, so with everything that we've said, what about the things that we do to ourselves? So like the data we leave around, the places we've logged in, stuff that we put into AI as users that we don't think through that shouldn't belong there. We've talked about internal and external threats, but like what are some, I'm not going to use the word stupid because we're just uninformed. So like what are some problems that we create for ourselves in ways that we don't think are gonna come back to us as business users of software and of tools?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that is a long answer.
That is why we have time for this.
Yeah. Starting with throwing too much into AI. That's just
okay.
That's just.
Tell us about that. Why? But I thought AI was the solution for everything, Tom. Why would you say that?
That's the thing too, and I got another talk coming up about that in like 2 weeks.
But AI, Tom, AI in everything, AI everywhere. No, why not?
AI is a tool.
Okay.
AI is not. It is a tool, and what a lot of companies have been doing or making the mistake of doing, and they're learning slowly, but they are, is they're throwing everything at AI, but that means they're throwing all their PII, their PHI, sensitive information,
What
proprietary
is
information.
PII? What is PHI?
PII is personally identifiable information.
Okay.
PHI is personal health information.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's
Mhm.
bad. So you're
Yeah.
saying you shouldn't put your
No,
doctor's
no, your diagnosis, your prescriptions, you
no,
know,
you don't do
all
that.
of that. No,
You
no,
don't put your contracts into AI.
no,
You don't know. You don't put your emails. You don't put your no.
no,
Why?
because
I for
you are
for legal
literally
purposes, I am actually joking. I do not. I am not thinking. I'm not saying
no,
this seriously.
because you're literally to another person, technically, or another
Okay.
entity. Really, that's better. You're giving your information to another entity, and in cases, and it's in the terms and conditions too, with like Anthropic and um, oh gosh, ChatGPT. I forget. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think they're the same thing.
Open
No,
AI.
they're different.
Mm-hmm.
OpenAI. Thank you. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's in the terms and conditions where if depending on how you use it and how you deploy it, that data you throw in there, you are giving consent to have the AI learn from that data, and also you are giving consent that they can keep it in perpetuity.
What about
Depending
if you
on
uncheck that box? Are we still safe? Because you can say, "Don't learn on my data." Is that
not this is where the paranoid part or the non-trusting part, because these people that own the companies are not trustworthy, based on their actions. I don't trust them. I wouldn't trust them to stay by their word because, and this is getting philosophical too, but
Mhm.
because they have so much money, they can litigate beyond
I
all
mean,
litigation. Right?
that's logical
Even if,
because sometimes paying a fine is much more cheaper than
oh yeah,
not doing the thing. So
oh
yeah,
yeah, Amazon, Google, they all do it all the time. They'd
we've
rather
had
pay
a
the
lot of big lawsuits in Europe related to big
fine,
companies,
which you should.
and they just
Yeah,
pay the fine.
GDPR.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
So it doesn't mean that you're paranoid. What you're saying is the assumption is that potentially the data you enter there goes to somebody. So this is not this magical being that's reading through your data and giving you this amazing advice. It's an algorithm, it's a product, and somebody can see it on the other side, whether it stores your data or not, is what you're saying, basically.
yeah, because they can probably are mining it and using it to sell to other companies for marketing and advertising purposes.
So,
Uh,
if I can jump in, tell me a little bit about when you connect AI to your software, use it in a Chrome
ooh,
extension, because I've had conversations with clients and potential clients where we were asked about using Claude Cowork. I'm not saying that any of those companies is bad or good or anything like that. So we're not saying
no,
that. I'm just saying that it's unclear what actually fully happens when you deploy AI agents, when you use all of that. Like it's a I think it's a gray area still because we're going under an assumption that if I uncheck the don't train on my data, they don't save it, so we don't know that. um, a potential client wanted to connect their computer and all of their data, so they could get files sorted, this and that. What is the danger?
that um, you can actually partially control.
Okay.
And
How?
that the main thing there is, if you are considering that, you need to be very confident in what you're doing. You need to be very careful. Need to be very deliberate too, because even say you do check the box and you don't learn from the data, you can't necessarily trust that completely. It's fine. We're setting that aside for a moment. The main thing you can do is around access. Because what the mistake I would call it, yeah, mistake that I see a lot of people and companies doing is, oh, we're going to get that AI extension, we're going to get that AI model, we're going to deploy it locally, we're going to use the third-party application, etc. All that stuff, and they just give it access to everything, which includes all the public data, which is fine. It's probably what you wanted to use it for anyways, but unfettered access to everything else too that's connected. All your sensitive data, PII, PHI, all that stuff, but also potentially access to your infrastructure, to your network, everything else behind the scenes. You're running your company, running your product, running your service. And right there, that's where you stop it. That's where you can be vigilant and set up your own boundaries, your own guardrails, your own protections, where first you decide, okay, how are we going to use this AI model? What data do we want it to use? And then go from there. It's like, okay, we only want to use it for a subset of data that lives in this particular database. It's all publicly known data, so we don't care if it gets out or not. We don't care if it gets, trained. If it helps train the AI models, that's fine. Then you create the proper permissions, the proper security groups, and you create a service account specifically for that AI, and you only give AI access to that service account, nothing else. That way you are containing what AI has access to. And honestly, that's how you want to operate with everything anyways. But in the circumstances, you're a small company, and your data probably is your monetary value, most likely.
Especially
Start
if you
with,
provide services to people. So
yep,
what you're saying is you don't have to be paranoid. You can use it, but you have to contain it. You can't just like
yes,
provide access everywhere, right?
exactly, yes,
And
yes.
basically, I've also encountered that with some apps in their terms and conditions, they can like access your phone,
Mhm,
they can access other
mhm.
data, they have access to your photos, all of that. So, like, how do you educate yourself on reading terms and conditions and for that to stop being something we scroll past, and click yes, just so we have a game, just so we have an app, just so we have access to this or that?
That usually, well, no, it can apply to companies who provide phones to their employees, but you'll see more use out of this on a personal level,
Mm-hmm.
and that is going into your phone settings and your application settings and looking at them, changing them, because you do usually have the ability to change the privacy settings and change the security settings both on your phone and the app. Just go through and do it. I do it all the time. Well, not all the time. I don't actually. I rarely ever put apps on my phone, anyways, just because I'm weird like that. So I have like 10 apps maybe. But I do go through and I double check all the settings. Do I want this? Why does this app need access to my photos
Yes.
when it has nothing to do with my camera?
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the files. It's like, why? It doesn't need that access.
Yeah.
So you turn it off.
You can turn it off.
Or yeah, or if you're looking and before you even download it and you stumble across it, or you're purposely looking for that information on what it has access to, or you get that pop up on the screen that says, it needs admin access to this, and this, or access to a bunch of different functions on your phone, and it's like, why? I'm just playing a game, or this is supposed to be a Wi-Fi analyzer. Why is it asking for access to my files and my text messages?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're at the decision of, do I even download this and install it on my phone, or I do download it, but I change all the settings. You get two options right there, and there's plenty of other options, but
So what we want is an informed decision, basically.
yes.
What about and I'm going towards the end of the conversation, but even though we're talking about business, I need to ask, what about robot vacuum cleaners? What about our fridges that connect to Wi-Fi? Our dishwashers that connect to Wi-Fi, etc. Because I I remember reading that quote from an IT guy, and he was like, the more I know about everything, the more I have analog stuff. Like, I don't have a smart home, I don't have this or that. So um I've seen the scandal related to Roomba hacking with photos and stuff like that. So, like, do we buy the devices? What do we do? Like, is my vacuum stalking me? What's happening, Tom? Is it
Well,
doing its job, or is it taking pictures of me?
the first question I have is, what purpose does that actually serve? Why do I need my fridge on my
Well,
Wi-Fi?
I
Why?
like to see I have I have
I
a
like to watch
smart.
your vegetables.
I like to turn off everything while I'm in bed. It's called being lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Unfortunately, the burden of knowledge.
The burden of knowledge. So like, should I
I don't.
unplug? Should I
I
unplug
don't have
my smart lighting? Is it, it's connected to
Oh,
Wi-Fi? No.
yeah. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. No, I purposely don't have anything. My locks, they're all mechanical analog, you know. My thermostat is not connected to my Wi-Fi. It has the ability, but I purposely turned it off.
But
That was the first thing
So
when I moved into.
So I should replace it, or can I keep it?
It's up to you. You can keep it if you
But
want.
what are the dangers?
No,
What are the dangers?
the
What can happen?
dangers. One friend of mine, it's a funny one. Network printers is a fun one,
Okay.
or Wi-Fi printers. Actually. So my friend of mine, he worked with me in IT, and he was, just kind of goofing around in his neighborhood one day. He was bored, and he was looking at all the Wi-Fi enabled devices that he could have access that he could see on his network. Just do a network scan, which is legal. And then he saw one of his neighbors' printers was on there, and it was unlocked. So he started printing random stuff on his neighbor's printer, and it was salty language,
Okay.
funny jokes, nothing scandalous or anything, but it was just stuff like that, or like saying the printer is your overlord now, and if you don't do this, that, or the other thing, it's going to take over your house. Goofy stuff like that. And he was doing that because the printer was Wi-Fi enabled and it had no protection on it. And that is how all of these things are shipped. Your Wi-Fi, not your Wi-Fi, I'm sorry, your thermostat, your fridge, your coffee maker, your dishwasher, your
Not the
vacuum.
coffee maker.
Yeah, your vacuum, your toaster, your smart pillow, mattress, whatever. All this stupid smart stuff that offers no actual value is shipped with default protections on it, which literally means the username and password are usually either user or admin, and the password is password or admin.
Okay,
And
so
people forget to change it.
So if I want to be happy and lazy, I have to hire a cybersecurity consultant for my smart home, is what you're saying. But I can keep it if it's protected properly. Is that the message?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I want.
That and the other thing too, they're all turned on to broadcast, which means they're out there. So they're pinging and saying, Wi-Fi network, come connect. And someone driving by, especially if they're malicious and purposely looking for that stuff, can see it and connect. And if you just have that on your regular home network, that means they can pivot to any of the devices in your home, whether it's your smart TV, your PC with all of your backed up IRS data and your pay stubs and your bank account information and all that fun stuff, and the Excel sheet with all your usernames and passwords on your desktop where it should not be, but is. They can see all that and get into that and steal your stuff.
And this is why cybersecurity experts are not invited to dinners usually, because they kill the party.
That's why I'm a hermit. So I have no friends.
I think that sums it up. But while you are making me scared, what about Siri and Alexa?
Oh my God. Oh, that's the other thing too. Siri, Alexa, your phone. Those are always on and listening, and gathering information.
She
and
never listens
it.
What I tell her. She never does what I ask her nicely to do, but she always listens.
Yeah, basically, they're teenagers. They never listen to what you tell them, but they're always listening to everything else to use it against you.
Yeah. Against you? Please explain.
Well, yeah, it's like your kid contradicting something, and then you're stuck saying, do what I say, not what I do. It's like, but you did this. I told you not to.
If I don't speak nicely to Siri or Alexa, will that be a problem if the robots become sentient at one point?
Not as much as the amount of time you spent arguing with ChatGPT and insulting it.
Well, I think that this proves that you have hacked my accounts before this podcast. No, jokes aside, I really think we all need to rethink our strategy when it comes to business and personal. because I know a lot of people who still use pen and paper. I know a lot of people who use digital sticky notes for their passwords, and we all love the Wi-Fi connection. I love the Wi-Fi connection for stuff, because then when I leave home, I can just like turn off stuff. I can see if something's plugged or unplugged. They're like smart outlets in IKEA that you can put on the non-smart devices. So the outlet, the part that goes between the outlet and the, you know what I mean, basically gives you a signal if you unplugged it. You don't have to worry
Mhm.
about it. So like, I think that everything you said is a balance between this will make my life easier, but it can also put me in danger.
Mhm.
Just like everything in life, and you have to weigh in on the decision. So like, if you are actually entering data into AI, make sure that you paraphrase stuff. Don't copy the entire, contract with everything. Just like, ask for a non-specific situation, see for results, talk to an expert. If you need a contract, go to a lawyer, don't go to AI and all of that. I think that's what you're aiming at, right?
Mhm.
The divide
Yep.
business and personal, especially if you're a solopreneur. Make sure that you can, wipe the device if you have to. Don't click on stuff in emails, don't pay invoices you shouldn't pay. And then also try to have some sort of, I would say, digital hygiene in a way, like audit your
Mhm.
devices, audit the applications, audit the username, not username, sorry, your
No.
logins basically, and delete data. What I like, as somebody who is living in Europe, basically, we have GDPR on our side, right? So I have
Yes.
the right for deletion. That's
Yep.
basically something that I can always request. I believe that you can do that as citizen of any country. There should be a possibility within software for those things, right? But you should be able to ask for data deletion, and not just not using the account or paying the license. That won't close it. You have to delete it and ask for erasure, right? Is there something else on my list of summary that you think that I missed?
Yeah, but it's all like next level advanced stuff.
Next level advances. So that's our next that's our podcast number 2 when we do the second part. Then we're going to talk enterprise. So how can people work with you if they want to reach out or anything like that? Like, do you have anything that you would tell them? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way to reach me. Just connect there, message me there. That's the easiest way.
Do you have
So
the
I do.
LinkedIn app on your phone?
I do. I finally do. There was a time where I didn't have it on my phone because my phone was slightly older and didn't have enough space. But I've since gotten a new phone.
I hope it's not a Nokia 3310. It's
Oh man, those bricks were awesome. I used to actually have one of those. I can't tell you how many times I dropped it or threw it unintentionally, and that thing didn't budge. There, it was
That thing
fine.
had a case for it, but the case was to protect the
Everything else.
everything else. Not I don't know why they don't make phones like that anymore. Like, I love my iPhone, but if I use it without the case, I feel like it's illegal. Like, I'm gonna,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Same thing. And it's like if I don't have a case on, it's like, eh.
It's
I even have a screen protector that
I
recently
have a
cracked.
screen protector. I have
Screen-
a case. I have everything. And I still feel when it's without it, it's weird. And I remember when I had those old phones, like, you could throw it against the wall, nothing would happen. Not that I did that, but I'm saying it felt so secure. It was so
Mhm.
sturdy. These phones are so good. They're so smart, but I feel that they're gonna, I don't know, without a case, just like break,
Yeah,
vanish.
I would love to have one of those brick Nokias, but the only thing is the T9 texting would suck.
Yeah.
So having to do that was nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, adding the swipe to it, that would make it much better.
Yeah. One thing that I don't miss is the Blueberry phones. What was Blueberry?
BlackBerry. They had the little wheel on it.
No,
BlackBerry.
yeah, but also those with too many buttons. What were they called? I don't know. I'm too old. I'm too old for this conversation. I should continue with trying to pretend I'm Gen Z.
Don't say that. You're making me feel old.
Sorry?
Nothing. Nothing.
Okay, so for the end, is there something that I didn't ask you, but you want everybody to know?
Yeah, hopefully I can keep this short too. And it kind of goes back to a lot of the verification I said. A lot of the big buzzwords now in the landscape, in the industries out there is zero trust, which, yes, it is a buzzword, but it does actually come from somewhere legitimate. And that is the concept of trust but verify. You know, those examples I gave earlier of those emails, those text messages, those phone calls, and everything. You know, you can trust it only so far, but always verify. Always verify with the person sending it. You know, on through an alternate means. Just verify. It's easy, and it'll save you a lot of headache too. Because most of the time it'll be spam or junk, and you just like, oh no, never mind. And then you can have a nice conversation with someone you haven't talked to in a while, or call your mom. Because I'm always getting told to call my mom. I should call my mom more.
I think that's a great advice, and then you have an informed decision because you have data, right? So that's
Exactly.
all we want. Don't be paranoid, don't be scared, don't unplug your robot vacuum cleaners or Siri.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just get clarity.
yeah.
The clarity will ease your mind.
And document stuff, like keep a track of stuff and divide stuff. So if something in the business gets attacked, god forbids, you have other access, you have other computers and all of that, and have somebody in your network that is a cybersecurity expert, and call Tom if you need help and if you need advice, because if he helped me and I ask a lot of stupid questions, he's gonna definitely help you. I think that should be your next ad. Yeah.
And I'm used to it too. I was the family IT guy before I even got into IT, and then once I got into IT, I was definitely the family IT guy, and
Yeah.
I still am. I still get those calls from family
Everybody.
members.
I think it's very important when you talk with experts that you don't feel like you're asking stupid questions, because you don't know how to ask an informed question. And it's the same when my clients contact me. You don't have to know all the software features. You don't have to know all the operational stuff. You don't have to know how to do automation. Just like ask me in plain language and we'll figure it out. Just like with you. I usually ask you stuff in normal language with examples, and then you tell me, I didn't know about the term for abandoned software accounts, that it's called an orphaned account, for example. That's something new I learned. So every time you talk to an expert, you're just going to learn new stuff, and you're going to be able to participate in that conversation even more as the time goes by. This is why it's important to have your lawyer, accountant, cybersecurity expert, digital operations experts, so all of that. So that's all from us today. I think we could talk another few hours, but we have obligations to do, because for Tom it's still morning and for me it's really late. So thank you so much, Tom, for being part of this show, and I really appreciate your perspective about this conversation. And I really like that cybersecurity, when you explain it, it's not just like firewalls, passwords, compliance checklists, and all of that stuff. It's literally about designing the systems around your business, making it work for you and work with you, and that you have to understand it to reduce unnecessary risk. And technology is not something to be afraid of. It's something to, make work with you.
Yeah. Yep. No, I appreciate it. No, this has been fun. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you. And for everybody else who's watching the episode, if today's conversation encouraged you to think differently about the systems behind your business, make sure to subscribe to Systems with Laura podcast so you don't miss future episodes where we explore how thoughtful systems help businesses grow more effectively. Thank you so much for listening. Bye. If today's episode makes you realize your tools are not supporting your business, Proprium builds systems in tools like Airtable, SmartSuite, ClickUp, HubSpot, Make, Zapier, and many more. Proprium's team maps your processes, builds your workflows, automates your tasks, and trains your team. If you want systems done properly, visit proprium.agency.